All right, so we're diving into mindfulness today. I know it's a buzzword, everyone's talking about it, but let's unpack it. What's the deal with mindfulness? What does it actually mean?
Well, you're right. It is everywhere these days. But at its heart, mindfulness is really about hitting pause
Yeah.
on that autopilot we all tend to live in. Like really being present intentionally without judgment.
So, not just like sitting on a mountain chanting.
Uh-huh. Not necessarily. It has roots in those ancient practices, but these days mindfulness is a secular toolkit. CEOs are using it, athletes, everyone, really.
Interesting. So, it's for focus, for stress. The material you shared goes pretty deep on the benefits. Some of it surprised me, honestly.
It's more than just relaxation. Like, let's talk mental health for a second. Mindfulness isn't temporary. It actually creates lasting changes in the brain, which is
Oh,
wild when you think about it.
really? Like, how so? What's
Yeah.
going on in there?
Studies show it can increase gray matter in the hippocampus. That area is like essential for learning and memory. And it impacts how we respond to stress, how we regulate our emotions. So, yeah, helps with anxiety, navigating depression, even just boosting your emotional intelligence overall.
It's like building a mental gym in there, right? Strengthening those emotional muscles or something.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I like that.
But, okay, what about beyond the mental? Because you sent over some research about physical benefits too, and it's not what I expected. It's not all just woo-woo, is it?
It's not. No, the science is really fascinating, actually.
Yeah.
Studies show practicing mindfulness can lower your blood pressure, your heart rate.
Wow, seriously. Just from like paying attention to your breath.
It seems simple, but yeah, it can even improve sleep quality, which, let's face it, who couldn't use a better night's sleep these days?
Right. Even an extra 15 minutes would be a win at this point. But it's not just like heart stuff and sleep, right? There was something about the immune system.
That's where it gets really interesting. Studies suggest mindfulness can positively impact your immune system, even boosting your body's response to things like the flu vaccine. It's about this mind-body connection.
So better sleep, maybe fewer sick days. Okay, what else? Because you mentioned boosting brain power too, right? That's got to be relevant to everyone listening.
In this age of distraction, it's like a superpower. Mindfulness helps train your attention, so you focus better, think more clearly.
So does it like make us less susceptible to our phones buzzing or something? How does that work?
It's not about eliminating distractions entirely, but changing how we relate to them.
Yeah.
You become more aware of when your attention gets pulled away, then you can consciously choose where you want to focus.
Ah, so building that mental muscle to resist the temptation, is there actually research on that?
Oh, yeah. One study, this is in psychological science, a few years back, they found that even a few minutes of mindfulness meditation, it improved attention, reduced mind wandering, the whole deal.
It's like a workout, but for your brain. I like that.
Exactly. It's about learning to observe your thoughts and feelings without getting carried away by them.
So you're not like emptying your mind completely, but you're strengthening it.
Yes, you're not ruled by every distraction. You develop the ability to choose where your attention goes.
See, now you're making me rethink my relationship with my phone, and we're only a few minutes in. But before we get too far, can we talk about the word itself? Mindfulness. Because it can sound kind of intimidating, like you need to be some kind of Zen master to benefit from it.
Well, I get it. It's a
Uh,
common misconception. You definitely don't need to quit your job and go live on a mountaintop.
Yeah.
It's about finding those small, sustainable ways to bring more presence into your normal life, your routine.
Okay, so less about overhauling my life, more about finding those mindful moments within it.
Yes, exactly. It's not about adding more to your to-do list, but bringing a different quality of attention to the things you're already doing.
Okay, that makes me feel better. So instead of adding another thing to my plate, it's about finding those opportunities within the things I'm already doing. I like that. What would be like a really simple example of that?
Well, one that might surprise you is mindful eating. We all have to eat, right? So it's about turning that daily routine into a sensory experience. Don't just scarf down your food. Slow down. Pay attention to the taste, the texture, even just the smell of it.
I actually tried that last night. I put my phone away at dinner. Usually I'm scrolling while I eat, and I really tasted everything. It was surprisingly nice. It made me realize how often I just rush through meals without even thinking about it.
It's amazing what happens when you bring that awareness.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's not just the food. It can be gratitude for the nourishment, the people who grew it, prepared it.
It's about the whole experience. That's cool, but you're saying mindfulness isn't just about like stillness either. You can be mindful in motion too, right?
Yeah. Exactly. It doesn't have to be sitting still meditating. Mindfulness in motion is bringing that presence to things we usually just rush through.
So finding those mindful moments in the middle of like everyday life, how does that actually work? What am I doing differently?
Think about something as simple as walking, right? Instead of your mind going a mile a minute with your to-do list while you walk, engage your senses. How do your feet feel on the ground? What's your breath like? The sights, sounds.
It's like instead of wishing I was already there, I'm actually present on the way there.
Yes.
I like that. And it's not just walking, I bet. What else works for this whole mindfulness in motion thing?
Oh, so much. Gardening, even doing the dishes, waiting in line at the store. It can all be a mini mindfulness practice.
So it's really about bringing that awareness to whatever you're doing, finding the mindfulness within things, not adding something extra.
Exactly. And the best part is the more you practice, the more it just starts to happen naturally.
That's good to hear. Now, one thing a lot of our listeners are wondering is, okay, but does this stuff really work? We've talked about the research, but let's get specific. One of the things you shared was about mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBSR. Can you explain what that is first for those who haven't heard of it?
Sure, MBSR is a really great example of how these ancient mindfulness ideas have been turned into a program with like actual proven results.
Right.
So it uses meditation, body scans, gentle yoga, all to help people manage stress, pain, all kinds of things.
And the research on it is pretty compelling, isn't it? This isn't just like people saying they feel better.
No, not at all. There was research out of Harvard Medical School. They found MBSR participants increased their sleep by an average of 45 minutes a night. And that's just one thing. There's studies showing reductions in stress, anxiety, even positive changes in the brain itself. It's wild.
Wow, that's huge. And what I find interesting is it's not just masking the symptoms, right? It's helping people actually change how they deal with stress in the first place.
Exactly. It's not about pretending stress doesn't exist. It's impossible. It's about how you respond to it.
Yeah.
Become more aware, more resilient.
Yeah, you move from just reacting to actually responding. So we've covered a lot, the what, the why, the how of mindfulness. For someone listening who's like, all right, I'm in, where do I start? What would you recommend as like a good first step?
You know, one of the simplest but most effective techniques is breath awareness. And anyone can do it, anywhere, anytime. You don't need anything special. Just take a few moments. Just notice your breath, the rise and fall of your chest, how the air feels cool coming in, warm going out.
See, I would have thought that was too simple, but it makes sense. It's something you can literally do anywhere.
It is. You're bringing your attention to something so fundamental, so available, but we usually totally overlook it. It's how you anchor yourself to the present moment, no matter what craziness is going on around you.
I like it. So start there, then you can branch out to other practices like the walking, gratitude journaling, even those meditation apps.
Exactly. Start small, build from there.
Much less intimidating than revamping my whole life overnight, that's for sure. Speaking of starting small, any tips on mindfulness with kids? They could probably use a little more presence too, am I right?
Oh, absolutely. Mindfulness can be amazing for kids, helping them with their emotions, their focus, even just knowing themselves better. And you can start young.
We're back, diving deeper into mindfulness. We've talked about what it is, why it matters, even how to get started. But now let's get real. We've got listener questions, and some of them are so relatable.
Love it. Let's do it. A lot of these are about the practical side of mindfulness, how to make it actually work.
Exactly. Like this one's huge. I've tried meditating, but I can't turn my brain off of thoughts everywhere. Am I doing it wrong?
Oh, I hear you. And so many others. First of all, you're not doing it wrong. The goal isn't to stop thinking entirely. That's pretty much impossible. But to change how you relate to your thoughts. Don't get caught up in them. Just notice them. No judgment.
It's less about emptying my mind, more about like befriending it.
Yeah. Think of thoughts like clouds passing by. Acknowledge them, but don't get swept away. You don't have to cling to them or analyze them or...
That's a good visual. No more pressure to have this perfectly blank mind, which is never going to happen anyway.
Right. Our brains are meant to think. It's about finding space around the thoughts.
Creating some breathing room in that mental landscape. Okay, that makes sense. Another big one from listeners, distractions. How do you actually be mindful when there's like phones, to-do lists, everything pulling at you?
Welcome to modern life, right? We're bombarded. That's why it's so important to be intentional about your environment, even if it's just for a few minutes.
So making that mindfulness-friendly zone, any tips on that?
Start small, quiet space if you can, phone on silent, ideally another room. Let people know you need a moment.
Setting boundaries, not always easy, but key.
For sure. And if thoughts pop up during your practice, totally normal. You don't banish them. You just observe, accept, maybe even have a little self-compassion.
We could all use more of that. Okay, last question. This gets to the heart of it. How do I know if mindfulness is doing anything? Like, what should I be noticing?
It's like planting seeds,
Right.
right? You don't get instant flowers. It's subtle at first, but over time, maybe you're less reactive to stress, more patient with yourself and others, appreciating small things more.
It's those inner shifts, not some overnight transformation.
Exactly. Like any skill you practice, it becomes more natural. Those little moments of presence, they add up.
This has been amazing. We've covered so much ground, all thanks to your expertise. Any final thoughts for our listeners before we wrap up this deep dive?
Just remember, it's a journey, not a destination. No right or wrong way to do it. Be kind to yourself, be patient, and even those small moments of presence, they can really make a difference.
So well said. It's about progress, not perfection. Finding peace and presence however we can. And on that note of being present, we're wrapping up this episode of The Deep Dive. We hope you feel inspired to explore mindfulness and discover its power in your own life. Until next time.